Mr. Chair of the House, this debate has been very messed up, and I'm sorry I've said this several times about faithfulness and community speech, but it's particularly true in this instance. This debate is to show on our side of the House whether or not the tag religious feminism is contradictory, antithetical, right? Antithesis can exist in two instances. It's antithetical ideologically. They have considered this. One of the things Kumbi says is everybody obviously knows religion clearly contradicts feminism. So they clearly contradict their opening. Who does not think religion contradicts feminism? They believe such things can cohabit. Relax, guys, relax. Their point is they have considered ideological contradiction. But as far as they are concerned, this doesn't matter. What matters is ultimate utility. So their point is ultimately, the bottom line in this debate is to show whether or not allowing more people bear the tag religious feminists will bring about ultimate equality. If we destroy that, as Toby has already done, but he failed to respond to, if I show how Toby has already done that, then we win this debate very clearly. But then let us be very clear about a couple of things, right? In this debate, we ought to answer, what is best for society. Should it just be people being allowed to carry tags? Because on this side of the house, we don't care about tags. Women who want to call themselves unicorn feminists can call themselves unicorn feminists for whatever we care. Women who want to opt into oppression and call themselves believers in that oppression can do that, right? Toby clearly establishes this, that we are not against the choice of the woman. What are we against? We are against a woman who claims that, okay, she supports very patriarchal structures like religion, in that instance coming out to say, this is what feminism is. So what we are against, and I'm going to conceptualize this as this, is the capturing of the feminist discourse, right? And Toby clearly establishes this. She says, when women who are believing contradictory things now begin to center themselves as feminist icons, that is what we think is antithetical to the goals of feminism, right? So we're going to be establishing this very clearly, and they have failed to engage anything Toby says to all of that material. Okay, so one piece of extraneous rebuttal, then I'll get into my material, right? So ultimately, they have been harping on people doing whatever they want to do. Let us be very clear, this debate is not about that. We think people should do whatever they want to do. What we are saying is, if you do whatever you want to do, call yourself a religious feminist, for example, is it then antithetical? Let us be very clear. Can you do whatever you want to do, call yourself a religious feminist? Yes, that is what we say. Now, is calling yourself a religious feminist antithetical? Yes, they have not engaged this latter part of the question. So that's the point that they have failed to do, they have failed to engage in this debate. Alright, what have we brought you ultimately from closing government in today's debate, right? The first and most important thing we have brought you in this debate is to tell you how the co-option of the struggle by oppressive forces under the guise of nuance is very, very destructive and antithetical to the goals of feminism, right? So clearly they concede ideologically these things are contradictory. Their best argument is that in the future, because everything is dynamic and religion is dynamic, in the future, religion will not be contradictory, religion will be liberal. We are very fine on our side of the house to concede that in that future, where religion is liberal, a religious individual can also claim to be a feminist. We do not mind in that future to say, in that future, right, where religion is perfectly accommodating of female views and desires, that women can begin to call themselves religious feminists and no one will consider it antithetical on this side of the house. But the point is to debate whether or not it's antithetical in extant case. If you want to say in the future it will not be antithetical, that's very fine to consider. What then will be the debate from side government? That's absolutely rubbish. So, is the co-option occurring? Yes. So when you begin to say you are centering religion in feminism, what you are saying is you are centering men in feminism. Recognize that men control religion, right? And they consider all of this on all sides of the house. So ultimately, feminism remains the last space in which women still have control, where they can shape their own narrative, determine for themselves what is important. When you begin to say your pastor can become a feminist figure because religion, obviously, according to them, is not contradictory with feminism. Therefore, your pastor can interpret scripture or whatever and say whatever about scripture, and that will be termed feminist dictum. To that extent, you are centering the oppressor, the patriarchs, in your religion, in the practice of a force that ought to liberate women, and this is something they have not recognized. Second most important thing we brought about in this debate, right? We tell you that a movement predicated upon choice does not have a moral body to now recognize an antithetical force to it. That is why Toby continually used the example of democracy and tyranny. A democracy does not have, because democracy respects rights of everybody, does not have the duty to respect a tyrant who wishes to take away the rights of people. Therefore, the feminist movement does not have the duty to respect religion that ultimately takes away the rights of women. Let me emphasize this again. On this side of the house, they all concede that religion is really fucked up today, and religion at best in their side of the house is only going to get better tomorrow. So they concede that religion is currently oppressive to women. So the point therefore becomes, does feminism have a burden, moral or otherwise, to accommodate something that is currently oppressive to the people that wish to liberate? They have not engaged that material at all. Yeah.
This debate is not about that. It's about what will be the ultimate benefits. So how are you
So according to you, anti-patriarchy is to allow all these religious women who believe that they are subservient to men, who believe they are inferior to men, to now call themselves feminists. So because if all these patriarchal women, for example, let's assume all of these people who don't call themselves feminists, they are patriarchal, right? If all of them now begin to call themselves feminists, according to these guys on this side of the house, kumbaya, right? Feminism has won. What sort of nonsense is this? How is that even any sort of utility on their side? I'm so surprised that these guys are running this argument. But ultimately, let us recognize that true equality in society comes about by a radical change of that society, not succumbing to a revisionist dictums which seek to put you under that oppressive structure. True change does not come in you saying, yes, my husband has the right to beat me up, or my child has the duty to get married as a child bride, or whatever, because that's what religion says. But hey, I'm a feminist, right? I'm a Muslim feminist who believes in child bride and female genital mutilation. But then, I'm calling myself a feminist, we have achieved equality. That is absolute nonsense. How is that utility? It is better for us to have one feminist woman in the world who believes in the true practice of the liberation of women than a billion, religious feminist women who are telling other women that, hey, it is fine for you to continue to be oppressed and for you to be seen as less than a man. This is what they do not realize. More women adopting the tag of feminist under the guise of religious feminism is not progress. It's simply changing the tag. True progress is even one woman fighting against the oppression as it exists, and they have not engaged us on that level. Ultimately, let me re-emphasize this once again. This debate is not about telling women what they can do, as these guys claim, or trying to make more people bear the tag of feminist, which these guys think is some kind of utility. Clearly, it is not a kind of utility. This debate is about what is antithetical to a movement, and antithesis can exist on two levels. Whether antithesis ideologically, and they all consider, yes, ideologically they are contradictory, or antithesis in the context of like progress. Is it antithetical to the progress of the progress in achieving the aim of feminism? And the answer is yes. And the only thing they can tell you on that point is no, it is not antithetical, because there are now more feminists, but there's still more patriarchy. In fact, now the feminists are now the patriarchs, and that's the best case they have on their side of the house. I'm very proud to report.
Thank you.